Welcome to episode 15 of Pera's Playbook. Today we're joined by Buffalo kicker Alex McNulty. Alex, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining me. You're our first Division I football player on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Actually, you're a dual sport athlete too. I can't forget about track.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, a good place to start might be to kind of talk about, your senior year of high school and then ending up as a walk-on at Buffalo. I mean, did you have other offers or was Buffalo kind of your only option for football?
So I had some like PWOs. Maryland had offered with like a competition with like three guys to potentially win the starting job. Um, and I had some others where I was looking where I could also walk on to potentially. Um, but I had narrowed it down to Buffalo and Maryland, and Buffalo seemed like the better option. They had a fifth-year kicker who I could redshirt behind and learn from, Adam Mitchison, and kind of get a year to catch my bearings because I only played football for 2 years in high school. Like I just kind of became a kicker because I hit a long field goal in gym class, and they said, "Hey, you wanna come play football next year?" So I didn't have a ton of experience yet, and I thought that would be a valuable thing to have that year to learn and grow and kind of figure things out while still getting to be a part of the team and then take the starting job the next year. So that was a big part of my decision for Buffalo, as well as just the ability to be on the track team as well. Whereas I don't think any other school would have allowed me to do both, as well as pursue a double major.
Yeah, well, you had a lot going on your plate.
Yeah.
So, did you play other sports other than track? And you said football for 2 years growing up?
Yeah. So growing up, I played soccer as well as hockey. Um, and that was kind of like my main role. I'd do soccer in the summer and fall. Hockey was kind of like fall and winter, and then track would be spring and going into the summer. So I kind of focused on those, and I did like basketball and swimming and baseball when I was in youth sports, kind of growing up, trying out different things. But in high school, those were kind of the ones I landed on, and then had that one day in gym class where coach threw some balls out in the field, and I started hitting some field goals from deep, and guys wanted me to come join the football team, and I was introduced to my kicking coach now, who's out of Buffalo, Adam Tanelski, and kind of went from there.
So, at what point did you realize that, going to college and playing football was an option? Did that happen your senior year? Did it happen pretty quickly because you had a good leg?
It happened pretty quickly. So the way I met Adam is the kicker at my mom's school trained with him, and she's a teacher at CalMum, and he brought me up to kick with Adam, and I kicked pretty well. And he had his top 40 camp, which is a pretty big camp now, that he invited to me to after only kicking the one session, and it was the next weekend. So I had a pretty quick turnaround, and I went down there and I made it all the way to the quarterfinals in the competition and lost to the guy who ended up winning it, Briggs Bourgeois, who's I know he got signed free agent. I'm not sure where he is right now, but I know he's been being looked at by NFL teams this year. So kind
Yeah.
of started off early. Like I knew I had the potential. It was just could I get the mentality and the consistency that it took to be a good kicker.
Right. So then when you started making your decision to go to Buffalo, did track enter the picture right away, or how did that all kind of unfold together?
So I met one of the track coaches in high school at the state qualifier meet, and kind of talked to him and said I was going to UB for football and how would it look to join the track team. And he's like, yeah, we'd love to have you come out and basically like start workouts and from there kind of move forward. But I also knew like I wouldn't be able to do that until the football season was over. So I kind of put that on the back burner. And then once my redshirt season was over, I talked to Coach Leopold and asked if it would be okay to join the track team and start practicing with them once the football season was done. And he agreed to it. He saw that I took care of business and handled myself well and managed my time well. So he gave me the opportunity and just put the rule out there that I couldn't miss any football workouts. So as long as I didn't miss football, I was free to participate with the track team.
Yeah. So I mean, you ended up being, arguably the best kicker in school history, or one of the best, depending on how you want to look at it. I mean, you've got a lot of different records. You're the first kicker in school history with 100 straight extra points. In 2021, you were the first kicker in program history to make 250 plus yard field goals. And then in 2022, you made more than just two. All these different records, coming in. Did you expect any of this to kind of happen? Did you have goals like that? Like, I want to come in here and I want to be the best.
I definitely had the goals surrounding that to be the best, to beat like most field goals in school history, and to do all that. The first few years were a little bit rocky. One, I didn't think the practice schedule was benefiting me the way that I needed to perform, where we were kicking every day of the week and I was just getting tired throughout the season. So working with the coaches and Coach Mo, once he came in, was very open to listening to suggestions and making the adjustments I needed to our practice schedule so that when we got to games, I was fresh and ready to kick well. So kind of making adjustments to practice, the way I lift, and just maturing as an athlete overall and how I prepare for things, and not letting my ego get in the way of trying to max out lift and lift as hard as I can, but do things that were actually productive towards kicking. And through that growing, it allowed me to reach where I have in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Are there any games that stand out to you, just for some reason, any games that you've kicked in that really just kind of stick out in your memory?
One of the most memorable games was Penn State. My first year starting. It was I think the second or third game of the season. Just the crowd being that big, getting a couple opportunity. I missed the 49, but then I finished out with the two other makes later in the game, and just the feelings of going into half up against Penn State, hearing them get booed off the field by their fans was pretty fun. But then one of the turning points, I think, for my career personally was last year at Coastal Carolina, getting the opportunity to have 4 field goals in one game and making them all, I think helped kind of project me to have the season that I had last year. Because the first game wasn't my best game against Maryland, and then just had the one field goal from 52 against Holy Cross, which was a good game, but it wasn't a lot of action for me. I was mostly just on the sideline that game, and then to get out there and really be a part of the whole game and perform the way that I needed to, kind of helped give me the confidence and the boost I needed to carry through the season.
Right, gives you that motivation. Like I can imagine as a kicker, if you can't get out there, I mean, it's hard to.
Yeah, like one year that was really tough for me was the 2020 season with COVID. We kicked one field goal in our regular season, and then we had one in the MAC championship that was blocked, and then I had 2 in the bowl game. So it was just that was like a really weird season mentally, not being used as much because our offense scored a lot of touchdowns. We had a great running back, Jarrett Patterson. So it was even the punter, like we didn't punt or kick field goals that year. It was just touchdowns. A lot of kickoffs, but not many field goals. So that was a year where I really feel like I focused on extra points and kind of got into that groove of not missing extra points. But field goal wise, like I was still working on things and working on the deeper field goals. And then with Coach Mo's first year, we had, I think, 8 field goal attempts, 50 plus. And I didn't make as many as I'd like to, but that kind of started to give me the confidence of, you know what, I'm going to get the opportunities to kick these deeper field goals. Now I got to be ready and make them when the opportunities come.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole COVID thing, I can imagine would have been it was hard on any athlete, but as a kicker, like you've talked about, I mean, to improve on your craft, you want to be able to keep kicking, and kicking in practice is different than kicking in an in-game situation. So if you're really only kicking in practice, it's hard to improve and to kind of keep that mental side of the game up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, kind of going with that mental side of the game, and I mentioned that you had 100 straight extra points. Was there any point in that stretch where you felt pressured, like I've got to hit 100, or I've got to just keep going, or did you kind of put it out of your mind?
Not, I wasn't thinking about it at all. All of a sudden, I saw the post that I made 100. I was like, oh, really? I wasn't even thinking about it. I just knew
Yeah.
like the kicker before me, that was a point of emphasis, is not missing those extra points because he had missed a bunch that year, and that's one of the reasons I got a couple reps in that redshirt year, was because he missed a few extra points. So just really understanding the importance of, we need the 7 every time. We can't have 6 points off a touchdown. So I really locked in that year to make sure that we would have that opportunity to not have missed extra points, because that can, I've seen it lose games many times. So I wanted to not have that be a reason that we were losing games, was a missed extra point. So I really tried to focus and make sure you're treating that as important as any game-winning kick, because every point matters when you're out on the field.
Right. And that extra point could be the game winning kick. There's a lot of games decided by 1 point sometimes, whether, the other team only got a field goal at 1 point, or, the other team missed their extra point, you made theirs, could be a 1 point difference. So it's definitely, like you said, very important. And, maybe some kickers don't focus on that because it's not flashy. Extra points aren't flashy. They don't get the cool highlights and the exciting, but
Yeah.
still
But 90% of what a kicker does isn't flashy or exciting. Most of our kicks are 30 yarders, maybe low 40s. Like, I think it's something like 90% of kicks in college are under 45 yards or under 50 yards or something like that. And it grows each year, but
yeah.
It's not very often that you're kicking those big, exciting kicks. So you have to really lock in on the boring kicks. Not that they're boring, but the less flashy kicks. Whereas the big ones you still have to be ready for, but the more important ones in the long term, as far as having a good career, is making all those so-called easy kicks.
Right. Yeah. Which sometimes, aren't easy. If there's a lot of pressure on you for that one extra point, I mean, I'm sure that's just as hard as any other kick when you got like the whole crowd, everyone's staring at you, and there's a lot of pressure that can make the difference.
I actually prefer the pressure kicks.
Really?
The kicks I don't like are where I feel more uncomfortable, is first drive of the game, second drive of the game, we're getting out there. And I feel like the longer I'm a part of the game, the longer, even if I'm not on the field, just the longer being on the sideline, but like the more excited I am to get out there and make the more important kicks. Like in the fourth quarter, I feel like I'm as locked in as I can be. Like, I'm ready to make any kick that they throw at me.
I guess that's perfect for a kicker. It wouldn't be good if you couldn't make pressure kicks. You wouldn't be a very good kicker. So I guess it's great that you like it.
Yeah, I think part of where I learned that from was I was a goalie in hockey, and whenever you got the breakaway, like that was my time to shine, and I would get excited. Like those were the moments that you lived for. So those pressure moments are the ones you dream about, the ones you visualize in your head. So those are the ones I feel like I'm most ready for.
Right. So some, like in sports, track athletes, or they say when they're running, they can't hear people cheering for them because they're in the zone. So when you go out for a kick, field goal, extra point, whatever, can you hear the crowd noise, or do you just cancel it all out? You're in your own world and you make.
I feel like kick. It's just, I don't even notice it. Even like Penn State, like where it's the loudest crowd I've ever been at. Like I was on the field, and for those 3 field goals, I didn't feel like I heard anything. On the sideline, you hear it all, but when you're out on the field, you forget about it. You lock into your job. You see the snap, you kick the ball, and you watch it go through the uprights.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's good that you can kind of cancel everything out. If you were too focused on the crowd, you probably wouldn't make as many kicks.
Yeah, that's definitely something that as you mature, you learn how to better focus on certain aspects of the kick, and even become like, I always felt like I was never affected by outside distractions, but sometimes you have internal distractions. Your mind could start racing. You could have 100 thoughts about what you have to work on. But I feel like the longer I've been able to play, the more I've been able to focus my thoughts when I'm out there on just 1 or 2 things, so that I'm not overthinking, my minds aren't racing, and I'm really focused on getting my job done.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And I feel like a big part of that is having trust in my teammates in the operation, that my O-line's going to block up front, and my snapper Evan Davis and holder Jackson Balter are ready to go. I've been working with them since 2019. they haven't always been the starting snapper and holder for the field goal unit, but I've had reps with them for 5 years now, and I feel like we're as good as any unit can be.
Right. Yeah. And that's important, having some sort of a chemistry, being able to have confidence in them, because if you don't trust them, then where are you at as a team?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this upcoming season, you guys have a big opening game in at Camp Randall playing Wisconsin. I'm sure that's kind of the talk around the team right now. You're going into a Big Ten team, and there's a lot of people who say Wisconsin. There's a lot of unknowns with that team this year. They could be a 7-5 team. They could be an 11-1 team. I mean, there's like this could be a really good Wisconsin team. So what's the kind of the mood, now that you guys have started camp, and, from your coaches, from the teammates, with this, Big Ten team looming?
Yeah, I think we're excited for the competition to go out there and prove that we're going to be one of the top teams in the MAC this year by bringing it to a Big Ten team and giving them our best shot and try and take them down. I know the kicker there, Nathaniel Vakos. He was at Ohio last year and transferred over there. So it'll be fun to see another MAC kicker week one, even though it's not a MAC school.
Yeah.
So I think we're excited. I think the team's looking forward to being able to prove ourselves against a big team, even though they're kind of unproven with the new coaching staff and stuff.
Right. And that's another, probably similar to the Penn State game, where the environment is just, it's one of the best in college football. People talk about going into Wisconsin and playing there, and the fans are crazy, especially if they have hope for a exciting season. They got a new coach, like you mentioned. They've got some exciting players in the transfer portal, and all this different stuff to look forward to. I'm sure they're going to be extra riled up, and you guys get them first off.
I feel like home opener is always, at least for UB, is always one of the loudest crowds we get. So I'm sure it's similar at some of the other schools where home openers, everyone's excited for the new season, the new team, and wants to see them play. So I'm sure we'll get a nice big crowd there, and they'll give us their best, and we'll give them our best, and play it out and see who comes out on top.
Yeah, you guys have, I mean, you overall have a pretty tough non-conference schedule. You play Fordham, and you play Liberty, which is, I mean, they've been a really good team for the past however many seasons, and then you guys play Louisiana, who's also been a pretty solid team. So, I mean, for some schools, their non-conference schedule is kind of the easy, the bust off the rust kind of. But you guys actually have a pretty tough start to the year.
Yeah, I feel like the MAC always gets a pretty tougher non-conference schedule. But I think that's good for us because it'll prepare us for MAC play once we get into the MAC conference games, because the MAC's always a very tight conference. Anybody can beat anyone any day if they show up and play their hardest and the other team doesn't. So I think that'll give us a good outlook as to where our team stands and give us the motivation to finish the season strong and go into MAC play ready to face anybody.
Yeah. So, growing up, you said you didn't play football till, you played 2 years. Did you follow football at all? Like, did you like the NFL growing up, even though you didn't play it, or did you really not start following football until you started playing it?
Yeah, I would always watch. I didn't really watch college football at all. But I liked watching the NFL, sitting down on Sundays, watching all the games that I could, switching back and forth between CBS and Fox to the different games, because those were the two we had access to at home. And I just liked watching football. I liked sports. I liked watching hockey and soccer, and just being involved with sports in any way I could. Football, I just never really got into playing until I started kicking.
Do you have a kicker now that you like to watch, or do you like to watch kickers? Just look at their form, look, different things, watch highlights of kickers, or?
Yeah, I like to watch different people and see kind of how they create their power. Obviously, Justin Tucker is one of the most famous because he's one of the best to ever do it, and he's so consistent at what he does. And just looking at what stands out about different kickers, what makes them consistent, what makes them have great power. Like Bucker is known for having some of the best power in the league, and how he generates that power, and just kind of watching different things from different guys that you can add to your game.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I think people talk about how maybe you shouldn't copy somebody exactly, because if it works for them, it doesn't work for you. But you can always watch it, pick up on different things and just kind of see how they, like you said, just different things you can pick up on. It never hurts, obviously, to watch
Yeah,
a little
because
extra.
with kickers, I feel like everyone has like their own little differences in their form, but
Yeah,
overall, it's the same idea. How do you create power through the ball and keep it straight? And if you know enough about kicking, you can watch different kickers and see the ways that they do that. And if you watch yourself, then you can kind of find comparisons and where you can make little adjustments to help improve on those things.
yeah, definitely. So, who do you think is going to win the national championship? That's all the talk right now. The rankings are starting to come out for college football, bowl game predictions, all that. Of course, it's way early, but if you had to put your money on a team right now, not knowing really much about most teams, because obviously anything can happen in college football, who do you think is going to win it
Yeah,
all?
I mean, it seems like Georgia is the heavy favorite. Um, Very good team, good defense. Their offense may not be as the same as last year, but their defense is still very strong, and they're playing the SEC, so they got some of the best competition all year. They're always ready for the championships. Um, but I don't know. I think it'll be a little bit closer this year. It won't be just blowouts all the way through.
Yeah.
So, but
Overall, I
you
think.
never know. I don't know. I don't follow too much as to. I don't like to get into too many early season predictions.
Well, most of it, guys will say that they hate it. Analysts say they hate the preseason predictions, but they just do it because the fans go crazy for them.
Yeah.
It really doesn't mean anything. Who cares who's ranked number one 3 weeks before the season starts? It doesn't mean anything. Once you start playing games, winning games, that's when it actually means something.
Yeah. Especially non-conference, even like the non-conference, like the first 3 or 4 weeks of college football non-conference, you start to get an idea of the picture of who's good and who's not. But it can still be tough to tell because so many teams are still growing and learning the playbooks and installs and getting to know like to trust their teammates and have the timing right between different schemes and stuff like that. So I think the team that's going to be there the best in the end is the one that grows the most throughout the season, not the one that's championship ready on week one.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you do in week one necessarily, because there's a team, they could probably lose the first game. If they won out the rest of the season, they could end up being the national championships. I mean, that week one only matters so much, but the fans love all that. I do too. I mean, I like looking at the rankings, and even though I know it doesn't matter and I disagree with most of them anyway,
It
I
creates
still,
good opportunities for debate.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. What do you mean Georgia's gonna win? No, and you gotta like, yeah. All right, I'll debate with the radio. The guy, I'll be listening to a podcast. They'll be talking about it. They can't hear me, obviously, but there I am
Yeah.
in the truck or whatever, talking about how wrong they are.
Yeah, maybe the Big Ten will give them a shot this year. I know Michigan will be pretty good, and Ohio State probably, and some of them.
Yeah,
Mostly the Big Ten East, but
yeah, you'll get a firsthand knowledge on Wisconsin and how good they are. You'll be one of the first to know.
yep. See if they can hang with the big dogs in the East, the Big Ten.
Yeah. What about the Super Bowl? Who's gonna win the
Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl?
I mean, my girlfriend would be very mad if I didn't say Buffalo. She's big. Her and her family are very big Buffalo fans. They've brought me to a lot of games over the last couple of years. Um, and then Buffalo looks like a good team, but the whole AFC East looks good at this point, besides the Patriots. So a little bit of shift from a couple of years ago when it was just Patriots ruled the conference or the division.
Yeah.
So, well, but the Chiefs are hard to stop, and I think the 49ers are going to be real good if they can figure out their quarterback situation.
Yeah, it's going to be
Stuff that
interesting.
they've been dealing with. But the AFC is a tough conference, that's for sure this year. It's going to be close, tough to see who comes out of the AFC. The NFC, it's 2 or 3 big players with like the Eagles, 49ers, and maybe one of the other teams that are kind of on the bubble there.
Yeah.
The AFC is stacked. It could be any of 10 teams, it feels like.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an AFC team that wins the Super Bowl. And your girlfriend probably wouldn't like my pick that I've made in multiple podcasts. I said the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl. I'm sure she wouldn't be a fan of that pick.
Yeah, the Jets are looking good. The Ravens are could be very good with that new receiving core, and the Miami's still good. Bills are good. Bengals are still good. They may be struggling the first couple weeks if Burrow's not in, but it's definitely going to be a tough conference to come out of. And Kansas City's still one of the favorites with just the chemistry and the knowledge that the players have on that team to win in the big moments.
Yeah. I'm sure you don't watch the NFL too much though, or because you're focused on your own season and you know what's going on with your team.
Yeah, I mean, I like to watch the games on Sunday. It's our like off day for the week where we go in for recovery, and then we kind of get the rest of the day home to ourselves, do some schoolwork, sit in front of the TV, watch the games while I'm working on schoolwork and stuff, and maybe take a nap or something during the games. But that's our recovery day, so it's a nice thing to sit down, watch some football, and relax.
Yeah. So do you have aspirations for the NFL? You know, is that a goal of yours? I mean, you said you're a double major too, so I mean, you got a lot going on.
Absolutely. I'm excited for the opportunity to have another good year and put myself in a good position to maybe get drafted or picked up as a free agent after next year and take the opportunity and perform the best I can and hopefully end up on a roster next year.
Yeah, I mean that's all you can just do your best and you set yourself up, and then the cards have going to fall where they fall. Once the season's over, I mean, yeah, there's combines and workouts and all that, but the season speaks for itself mostly. Yeah, you'll get guys that'll shoot up if they have a great workout, but once you do what you've done, kind of the ball is in the other court now. What do the teams want? But I mean, I guess no matter how you get on a team, as long as you can get on one, whether you sign after the draft, you get drafted, however it is, all you need is that opportunity to get in there and show them what you got.
Yeah,
obviously
absolutely.
getting drafted is better because then you're for sure. But
yeah, no, absolutely. It's just the hardest part, I feel like, especially for kickers with only one per team, really, maybe a couple of practice squad guys across the league, is once you get your foot in the door, don't waste that opportunity because you may not get a second one. So you just got to perform once you get there and hope you get that opportunity to be in a room where you're competing for the job and trying to win it.
Yeah. So how about we end on just like, do you have any goals for this season? Maybe a team goal and a personal goal for this upcoming season?
Yeah, team goal, definitely win the MAC championship. I've been twice with UB, and we let it slip away both times. So locking through MAC play, winning the games we need to win, getting to the MAC championship and winning it this time, and being able to sit there with the few guys that have been here since 2018 with me, and then all the guys that have come since that I've gotten to know and become close with to celebrate as a team and finally bring home the championship. And then personally, just help my team win games, make my kicks. The goal is to go perfect on the year and just make all my kicks so that when we get there at the end of the year, I'm not sitting there saying, "Oh, I left these points on the board. We could have won a couple more games than we did."
Yeah, I think that's a good goal to have. I think it's kind of a good place to wrap up the episode. So, Alex, thanks for joining me. It was great to talk to you. I wish you the best of luck with this season. I'll be following Buffalo a little bit more closely now that I got a guy to root for, and when I see you run out on the field to make those field goals, have my fingers crossed for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.